It started with a desperate 911 call from a woman's voice, trembling, alone, and surrounded by trees. Moments later, the line went silent, and a young pastor's wife was gone forever. But what came after shook an entire community of faith to its core. This is the story of Mica Miller, a woman who tried to leave, but never got the chance. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Noir Crime 88, we upload a new real-life crime story every second day. Turn on notifications, because the next story might just be one you'll never forget. It was a quiet Friday evening, April 27, 2024, in Robeson County, North Carolina. The sun had just started to dip beyond the horizon when police dispatch received a haunting call. A woman's voice, panicked yet heartbreakingly calm, said she was at Lumber River State Park. She told them she was about to do something terrible, something she couldn't take back. Then, the call cut out. By the time officers arrived, the silence was deafening, and a young woman's body was found near the riverbank. Her name was Mica Miller, 30 years old. To the outside world, she was a radiant, faith-filled wife, the spouse of Pastor John Paul Miller, leader of a growing church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But behind closed doors, Mica's life was a prison made of manipulation, fear, and secrets. And within days, what looked like a tragic suicide would turn into a web of betrayal, hidden abuse, and shocking revelations. Mica wasn't just a pastor's wife. She was smart, independent, and driven, a woman who loved helping others and spreading positivity. Friends described her as the light in every room, always smiling, always lifting others up. But that light had been dimming for years. She met John Paul Miller when she was just 19, young, impressionable, and looking for guidance in her faith. He was much older, charismatic, and already a well-known figure in local church circles. To Mica, he seemed like everything she'd ever wanted, stable, godly, confident. But soon after they married, the cracks began to show. According to her friends, John Paul was controlling, jealous, and emotionally abusive. He dictated what she wore, who she spoke to, and even how she interacted with church members. On Sundays, they appeared to be the picture-perfect couple. But behind the scenes, Mica was struggling, trapped in a marriage that looked holy but felt like hell. By early 2024, Mica had had enough. She started attending therapy. She confided in close friends about wanting to leave. And she began gathering the strength to do the unthinkable, divorce her husband, the pastor. That decision would change everything. Because in their community, John Paul wasn't just a man, he was the spiritual leader. And Mica's decision to leave him wasn't seen as a personal choice. It was seen as rebellion. But Mica wasn't backing down anymore. She quietly packed a few belongings and moved out of their home, seeking safety. She filed for separation. And she started posting hopeful messages online, quotes about freedom, strength, and healing. Her friends say she was scared, but also determined. She told one of them, "If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." On that Friday, Mica was seen running errands in the morning, calm and composed. She sent a few messages to her friends, one of them saying she was going to clear her head. Later that day, her phone pinged near Lumber River State Park, a quiet, wooded area about 90 miles from her home. At 2:54 p.m., the Robeson County 911 Center received a distress call. A woman, later confirmed to be Mica, was crying softly. She told the dispatcher she was tired, that she didn't want to live anymore. The line cut abruptly. When police arrived, they discovered her car near the park entrance. Inside were her ID, phone, and personal belongings. Not far from there, down a forest trail, they found her body. A gun was beside her. At first glance, it looked like suicide. But nothing about it felt right. When news of her death broke, the official word came quickly: apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. But almost immediately, the people who knew Mica best began to question that. Her sister, Haley spoke publicly, through tears, saying Mica had been trying to escape an abusive marriage. She said her sister was terrified, constantly tracked, and emotionally worn down. Friends echoed the same thing. Mica wouldn't have taken her life. She was finally getting free. Investigators from Robeson County Sheriff's Office launched a full inquiry, but the more they looked, the more unsettling details surfaced. Mica had filed for legal separation just 2 weeks earlier. She had also been documenting incidents of alleged abuse, saving screenshots, messages, and journal entries. And according to her loved ones, she had expressed deep fear of her husband's temper. Yet despite all that, the case seemed to stall. Authorities said there was no sign of foul play. But the public didn't buy it. Days after Mica's death, Pastor John Paul Miller took to the pulpit. The sermon that day was unlike anything the congregation had seen before. He stood before his church, and instead of mourning his wife, he spoke about forgiveness, mental health, and how Mica had been struggling. He said, "She's finally free, and I know she's with God." To some, it sounded like comfort. To others, it sounded like rehearsed indifference. Within hours, clips of that sermon spread across social media, sparking outrage. People accused him of lacking empathy, of trying to shift blame. And soon, deeper questions emerged about his conduct, both as a husband and a pastor. Former church members began coming forward, describing what they called a culture of fear. Some claimed John Paul had used his authority to manipulate and silence people, including Mica. As pressure mounted, church attendance plummeted. Protests formed outside the building. And Mica's name became a rallying cry for justice. Mica's family refused to let her death be dismissed as suicide. They started a campaign demanding a federal investigation, arguing that the initial findings ignored key evidence. Her sister Haley began speaking out on national news, revealing disturbing details about the months leading up to Mica's death. She shared screenshots of texts that showed fear and control. She showed photos of Mica with bruises she allegedly tried to hide. The family also pointed out inconsistencies in the timeline. Why was Mica's location so far from home that day? Why wasn't her car processed immediately? And how did she obtain the gun used in the shooting when, according to those close to her, she didn't own one? As the public demanded answers, #JusticeForMica began trending. Within weeks, her story reached millions across social media platforms. By mid-May 2024, authorities said they were conducting a comprehensive investigation, though they hadn't officially ruled out suicide. Meanwhile, the FBI was reportedly reviewing digital evidence, including her phone records and 911 call. The community's faith in the justice system was shaken. The more people learned, the more they questioned whether Mica's death was truly what it seemed, or if someone had made it look that way. And as of today, Mica's family continues to push for the truth. They vowed not to stop until every unanswered question is resolved. Beyond the headlines, Mica's story is deeply human. She was a woman trying to find peace in a life that looked perfect on the outside but was slowly breaking her from within. She loved to sing, to paint, to help others heal. She wanted to start her own outreach program for women trapped in abusive relationships. And she believed, even in her darkest moments, that her story would one day help others find courage. Now, her name stands as both a tragedy and a warning. A reminder that sometimes, the ones smiling the brightest are the ones silently fighting to survive. If Mica Miller's story teaches us anything, it's that appearances can be deceiving. Behind every perfect post, every happy couple, there can be a storm no one sees. And for those trapped in silence, there is help. If you or someone you know is struggling, reach out to someone you trust. You are not alone. If this story moved you, hit the like button, it helps others discover Mica's story too. Subscribe to Noir Crime 88 for more real-life mysteries and true crime stories. We upload a new video every second day. Because every story deserves to be told, and every voice deserves to be heard.